When we set up a company, we need to be very conscious of who actually owns the physical shares in that company, because they will be receiving the dividends from it and be taxed on that. In terms of taking money out of a company versus a trust, we'll start with the first way to take money out of a company, which is a salary. And I think some of you who've seen a webinar or two or a workshop before may already know this stuff. I'm just going to cover it briefly again. So we take a salary out. Now, that's to pay ourselves or our spouse, let's say, if they work in the business. Now, even if it's paying ourselves, we have to take pay-as-you-go withholding. There's a requirement there. And we also have to pay super, which is currently 10% at the moment. It went up from 9.5% from 30 June, 1st of July. Just changed over a couple of months ago to 10%. Now, that we basically treat ourselves like we would an employee or a team member. So it's a pretty easy one to kind of wrap our heads around. Now, in terms of taking money out of a trust, the first way to do that is also to pay a salary. Now, if you do have a trust structure as your business structure, you may not be taking a salary, which is completely normal. You may be looking at these other two options here. Now, if we switch around to, and I'm just going to switch my screen around a touch. Cool. So the second way to take money out of a company. And when I say take money out, this is like cash sitting in the company's bank account. Again, option one, pay a salary. Option two is to loan it out of the company. Now, Division 7A in brackets there is the rules that surround loans from companies, and that's the whole topic of the webinar today. So this is going to cover if you have taken money out as a loan. Again, we use them all the time. So it's completely normal. But if you've got it there, if you're struggling with it or it's confusing, the whole purpose of this webinar is to go through that stuff. But again, that is option two, to take money out. If we compare that to trusts, you can take a loan out from a trust. We call that drawings. It's got a slightly different name, we call it. And there's no requirement. So Division 7A, in summary, says you've got to repay the money from a company. You can't just endlessly rip it out. You've got to repay it with interest and minimum repayments and a maximum term. So I'll cover that in a bit more detail. But if we go to a trust, the loans from trusts don't actually have those requirements. So there's no requirement to pay that money back to a trust. Now, it sounds better, but again, different client groups, different situations have different structures in place. And again, neither is better than the other on a global level, so to speak. But it just depends on your family situation, which one of these is more appropriate for you. Now, out of a company, the third option is to pay dividends. Now, dividends are paid to the shareholders of the company. So when we set up a company, we need to be very conscious of who actually owns the physical shares in those in that company, because they will be receiving the dividends from it and be taxed on that. So often, if we are setting up your structure, we'll want a trust to own those shares. And the whole idea of a trust is because we can choose from that point onwards who actually gets the dividend at the end of the day. So that's the whole idea of a trust owning the shares. And in brackets there, I've got a dividend is a payment of prior year profits. So ordinarily, you'll earn a profit. Let's say you earn 100 grand in profit. You pay 26% tax. So you're left with 74 grand in after-tax profit in the company. And you can pay out of what we call a franked dividend after you've paid that tax. So it's usually the next financial year. Cool. Now, again, comparing it to the third way to take money out of a trust pays a distribution. Now, that is every single financial year. So in brackets there, we've got current year profits. So if a trust makes $100,000 in profit, we need to distribute that in that financial year, and it hasn't been taxed yet. So it will give its profit to family members, your spouse, your kids potentially, your parents, retired parents. There's a whole list of people we can consider there. Or it can give it to other entities in the family group. Now, sometimes we distribute profit from a trust to a company, and that's going to be important later when we talk about how these Division 7A things arise.